No one expected him to speak out. But now, Kate Middleton's ex has broken his silence, and what he revealed, it changes everything. The perfect princess image, the shy university romance, it may not be the full story. In a stunning turn of events, this former flame just confirmed what royal watchers have whispered for years. Kate was never just a girl next door. She was calculated, confident, and always in control. But was it all part of a bigger plan? What did Prince William know? And when? Buckle up, because the past just came roaring into the present. The speech that shook the palace. No one expected Prince William to take the microphone that evening. It was a charity gala in London, elegant and polished, like so many others attended by royals. But what unfolded wasn't just another speech. William's voice was steady, but behind it was a surge of raw pain and conviction. He began with a statement that stunned everyone. This is the end of silence. The end of people trying to corrupt my mother's legacy. The room fell silent, not just from the power of his voice, but from the weight of what had just been said. Prince William, the future king, was standing at a podium, and instead of giving a generic message of gratitude, he opened wounds many thought had been sealed. He wasn't just addressing charity donors. He was talking to the world, to the media, to the firm. But most of all, he was talking to Camilla. While he never mentioned her name, the intent behind his words was crystal clear. He spoke about the dangers of rewriting history, of burying the truth under polished palace images and royal documentaries. His tone was not angry, but solemn, passionate, poetic, and every sentence had the weight of a son who had carried his grief in silence for far too long. My mother stood alone in her truth. Now it's my turn to make sure it doesn't get distorted, he said. The media exploded within minutes. Headlines screamed of a rift. Hashtags trended globally. @Diana lives on. #William speaks. Out. #Camilla exposed. Social media buzzed with support and criticism. But one thing was certain. William had just changed the game. William's bold speech didn't happen in a vacuum. To understand its true meaning, we must go back, not just to Diana's death, but to the childhood of a boy forced to grow up inside a royal war zone. Because before William could speak with such power, he had to survive the silence, the shadows, the heartbreak. And that story starts with a boy watching his mother suffer in front of the whole world, helpless to stop it. A son raised in shadows of pain. When you're a child, your parents are your entire world. For Prince William, that world began to crack early on. He was just a boy when whispers of his parents' troubled marriage began to echo through the walls of Kensington Palace. While the public saw smiling Christmas portraits and royal waves behind closed doors, William witnessed arguments, tension, and above all, his mother's pain. Diana wasn't just a mother to William. She was his best friend, his protector, and often the one person in the palace who understood what it meant to feel isolated. In quiet moments, she would confide in him, perhaps too much for a young boy. "I hate seeing you sad," she once told him when he tried to hide his tears. But William, even as a child, started hiding his feelings to comfort her. The role of comforter slowly shifted from mother to son. There were nights when William would find Diana crying alone, and instead of being shielded from it, he would sit with her, hold her hand, and listen. That emotional maturity became both his armor and his curse. He learned early on to put on a brave face for the cameras, to smile while carrying heartbreak. William's adolescence was shaped by this emotional push and pull. On one hand, the palace expected him to be the strong future king. On the other, he was a son dealing with the very public unraveling of his parents' marriage. The world knew about Charles and Camilla. William did too, and he couldn't unsee the way it affected Diana. Those memories never left him, and in many ways, they became the silent force behind the man who would one day step forward and declare that his mother's truth would no longer be silenced. The pain William carried wasn't just about his mother's suffering. It was also about who caused it and how that person was now being celebrated. The transformation of Camilla from a royal mistress into the crowned queen consort is one of the most controversial chapters in royal history. And for William, it was never just politics. It was personal, very personal. Let's unpack how Camilla's rise to power created a storm of resentment that still lingers today. Camilla, from secret to queen. The story of Charles and Camilla is no secret. But for Prince William, it was a wound. A quiet, slow-burning pain that started long before the public ever knew the full truth. While the media called it a love story that stood the test of time, William saw something else. A betrayal that tore his family apart. Charles and Camilla's affair, conducted while Diana was still alive and trying to hold the marriage together, haunted William. He knew, even as a child, that his mother was hurting. And though Camilla was kept away from the public eye for years, her presence loomed like a shadow. By the time Charles married Camilla in 2005, William's feelings were masked, but not forgotten. Over the years, Camilla's role transformed, from the other woman to Duchess of Cornwall, and now Queen Consort. The palace PR machine worked overtime to soften her image. Public appearances, charity work, glowing biographies. But inside, William struggled. Could he really accept the woman his mother once feared and despised? Publicly, he remained composed. Privately, those scars lingered. While the public warmed up to Camilla, Diana's sons were less convinced, especially William. Though he kept things civil, insiders often noted the coolness between them. He never fully forgave her, one royal aide reportedly said. The idea of her sitting on the throne next to his father felt like a rewriting of history, a history that had cost his mother everything. This internal conflict between duty and personal truth only grew stronger with time. And when Camilla was officially crowned Queen Consort after Elizabeth II's passing, something shifted in William. The crown had moved on, but he hadn't, and maybe he never would. With Camilla now crowned, the royal family tried to project unity. But behind the palace walls, William was no longer willing to play along. What followed was a clash between memory and monarchy, and it all ties back to how the crown has worked hard to rewrite Camilla's past. But William knows what really happened, and he's not letting it slide. Let's dive into how the royal narrative was carefully crafted to protect Camilla, and why William is breaking ranks to stop it. From platonic to public, William and Kate's love story didn't begin with fireworks or palace announcements. It started with two students at St. Andrews in 2001. Initially, they were just friends. They shared classes, study sessions, and everyday student life. But the turning point came when they moved into the same student house. Being around each other all the time, something shifted. Things just blossomed from there, William later recalled. What was once casual companionship slowly turned into something deeper. At that infamous dinner party, the shift became undeniable. Until then, They'd managed to keep their romantic bond behind closed doors. But Carly's comment, bold and public, forced their hand. Suddenly, William and Kate couldn't hide anymore. They had to face the attention, and they did, together. This wasn't just about gossip, it was about owning their truth. Before this event, they enjoyed anonymity. Walking around town, grabbing coffee, attending lectures. It was just normal life. But post-dinner, classmates started viewing them as more than friends. And when the media caught wind, the normal days were officially over. What changed that night wasn't just their status. It was their bond. Being exposed so publicly and so suddenly could have fractured a fragile relationship. But instead, it strengthened them. Forced into the spotlight, they chose each other anyway. But every story has a wild card. And in this one, it was Carly Massey Birch, the ex who lit the match and set off the royal firestorm. Who exactly was she? And why did her words hold so much weight? Carly Massey Birch. Before Kate, there was Carly. She was William's university girlfriend, charming, confident, and clearly unforgettable. Though their relationship didn't last long, it left a mark. So, when Carly was invited to that dinner party, no one expected fireworks. But she had other plans. Whether motivated by jealousy, honesty, or just wanting to make a point, Carly's choice of words was no accident. Saying, "I've never dated two people in this room," wasn't vague. It was surgical. She knew exactly what she was doing. And it worked. One sentence shifted the entire dynamic in the room and in royal history. What followed was a moment of stunned silence. Carly had tossed the truth into the open, and it landed hard. William's face, according to those present, changed instantly. He wasn't just embarrassed, he was cornered. Carly had spoken what no one else dared to say. Today, Carly is rarely mentioned. Her name fades behind Kate's fairy tale. But make no mistake, her words set the royal story in motion. In a way, she handed the public their first real glimpse at the couple who would one day be king and queen. As history tells it, love stories rarely happen by accident. And in Kate's case, some suggest her entire academic journey was calculated, with one destination in mind: Prince William. Kate Middleton's calculated move? Kate Middleton wasn't just another student enrolling at St. Andrews. According to historian Robert Lacey, her decision to attend the same university as Prince William wasn't coincidence. It was strategy. Originally headed for Edinburgh, Kate changed course when she found out William had enrolled at St. Andrews. And that's not all. She also reportedly switched her major to art history, mirroring William's. While critics argue this was all part of a long game, others defend her, saying proximity doesn't equal manipulation. Still, the facts line up too neatly to ignore. Even if it wasn't a grand scheme, Kate clearly knew how to position herself. Whatever the intention, the outcome was clear. Her move worked. She became part of William's inner circle. She was smart, grounded, and unbothered by his royal status. That calm confidence set her apart from others who may have tried too hard. Some insiders at the time whispered about Kate's ambitions, but William never seemed to mind. In fact, he admired her poise. Years later, he said, "She had this presence. She made me feel at ease." Maybe it was calculated, or maybe it was just the beginning of a very royal kind of love. But nothing sealed their fate quite like that legendary fashion show moment when Kate walked the runway and Prince William saw her in a whole new light. The fashion show that sealed it. There was a shift in William's gaze, a moment that some say changed everything. It was the 2002 student fashion show at St. Andrews, a modest fundraiser that would go down in royal romantic history. Kate Middleton walked the runway in a sheer black dress with a bold confidence few expected. Prince William, sitting front row after paying £200 for the best seat in the house, was reportedly stunned. "Wow," he was said to have whispered to a friend. That moment transformed Kate from just a friend to something more. It wasn't just about the dress. It was the poise, the surprise, the sudden realization that Kate wasn't just the girl next door anymore. She had presence. William saw something deeper, a kind of spark he couldn't ignore. Friends later revealed that the show was the moment he looked at her in a very different way. The chemistry had always been there, but now it was electric. From that night on, their dynamic subtly changed. They still studied, ate, and socialized together. But there was an unspoken acknowledgement. Something had shifted. William started to get more protective, more attentive. Kate, for her part, didn't push. She played it cool, allowing the slow burn of their bond to unfold naturally. That patience, that quiet confidence, spoke volumes. And in a royal world where image is everything, that moment made headlines years later. When the story resurfaced in the press, people were fascinated, not just by the outfit, but by the idea that even a future king could be stopped in his tracks by love. It was the beginning of a romance that would soon be impossible to hide. While fashion turned William's head, it was secrecy that kept their love quiet. At St. Andrews, among classmates and cobbled streets, William and Kate's relationship slowly bloomed behind the scenes. But while their inner circle started to piece things together, the world remained in the dark. And when a royal secret begins to stir, it's only a matter of time before it becomes a media storm. Let's turn to how the world began to suspect what William and Kate were trying so hard to hide. The public still in the dark. Though fellow students were beginning to notice, the rest of the world was still guessing. William and Kate continued to keep their romance under tight wraps. For the royal family, discretion was key, especially for a future king. The palace was firm. No confirmation, no denial, just smiles, vague answers, and lots of speculation. The media, always hungry for royal drama, began sniffing around. Tabloid rumors floated, but were often dismissed as student gossip. Friends of the couple stayed silent, respecting the boundaries William insisted upon. He wanted normal, one classmate said. He wanted just a bit of peace. Even when they were photographed together walking to class, having coffee, or laughing at events, the headlines stayed soft. Kate was still a friend in most reports, but the buzz was growing louder, especially after that unforgettable fashion show. Something was different, and royal watchers were starting to take note. Then came the tipping point, the dinner party incident. That moment cracked the surface, letting speculation rush in. It was no longer just about whispered rumors. There was tension, there was history, and there was a clear shift in public interest. This wasn't just another university fling. The love story was officially in motion. From soft glances and sheer dresses to tense dinner party confrontations, the relationship was starting to gain shape and scrutiny. But behind every royal love story is a question many dare to ask. Is it heartfelt devotion or calculated intent? As the public fascination grew, so did the debate around Kate's motives. Some called her loyal, others strategic. And in royal circles, both traits can define a future queen. Let's explore the big question everyone was whispering. Was Kate's romance a matter of fate or plan? Strategic love or true romance? Was Kate just in love, or was she playing the long game? This question has hovered around their story for years. Critics and commentators point to the choices Kate made, switching schools, altering majors, attending the same events. To them, it wasn't just coincidence. It was calculation. A plan to place herself near the most eligible bachelor in Britain. Royal biographer Tom Quinn claimed, "Kate was very aware of what she was doing." But others defend her fiercely. Friends insist her decisions were based on opportunity and interest, not ambition. She liked art history. She liked St. Andrews. The rest just happened, one friend shared. What's undeniable is that Kate played her cards with remarkable poise. She never overstepped, never chased fame, and rarely gave interviews. In a media age of oversharing, she was an enigma. And for William, who'd grown up in a glass castle, that kind of quiet control was magnetic. William, meanwhile, was famously indecisive in relationships. But with Kate, there was steadiness. She didn't flinch when the cameras appeared. She didn't crumble under pressure. Over time, it became clear, whether it was strategy or sincerity, it worked. William found not only love, but stability. While whispers of strategy stirred in the background, Kate's next moves only strengthened her place beside William. Her demeanor, her discipline, and her discretion quietly impressed even the most skeptical royals. But one moment would set her apart, not for planning, but for presence. When she stood by William at public events, it wasn't about flash. It was about fit. Coming up next, how Kate transitioned from girlfriend to future princess, winning over not just William's heart, but royal approval. A future princess in training. Kate Middleton's slow integration into royal life wasn't accidental. As her relationship with Prince William matured, she began appearing at more royal-related events. Though she kept a low profile, her presence spoke volumes. Observers noticed her quiet confidence, the way she stood beside William without overstepping, a careful balance between support and discretion. Insiders say the royal family noticed. While some admired her poise and consistency, others questioned her intentions. Was she truly ready for the pressures of royal life, or just another figure drawn to the crown? But over time, her steadfast nature won many over. Kate never made it about herself, one palace aide reportedly said. She always made William the priority. There were critics, of course. Some thought she was too calculated, too composed. But even those voices began to fade as Kate proved she could navigate the unique world of monarchy. Her steady presence, even in uncertain moments, became her strength. And slowly, the perception shifted. Kate wasn't just William's girlfriend anymore. She was seen as someone who might genuinely become a future queen. She wasn't loud or flashy, but she was resilient. And that quiet resilience became her signature. The Other Woman, twist. In royal love stories, there's usually a clear narrative. But that dinner party turned things on its head. With Carly Massey Birch's bold remark, suddenly Kate wasn't the innocent outsider anymore. She was, in that moment, cast as the other woman, the one who came after Carly, but perhaps while Carly was still in the picture. It was a jarring moment. William's face reportedly turned pale. He was caught between past and present, unable to deny what had just been implied. For a brief second, the fairy tale cracked, revealing something messier underneath. Kate, seated beside him, handled it with her usual calm. No dramatic reaction, just a composed silence. But the weight of Carly's words lingered. "I've never dated two people in this room." That line echoed through the rest of the evening. royal biographers still point to that moment as a turning point. It changed the way people looked at the couple. It wasn't just a clean, destined love story. It was human, flawed, real, and perhaps that made it even more relatable. From scandal to stability. Despite the awkward dinner and exposed secrets, William and Kate didn't crumble. Instead, they grew stronger. Carly Massey Birch faded from the public eye, her legacy tied to that one bold statement. But Kate remained, steady, consistent, and increasingly respected. Over time, the couple built a life that felt both regal and real. They endured years of media pressure, long-distance stints, and public scrutiny. But each challenge only seemed to reinforce their bond. In 2010, they got engaged. And suddenly, the girl who once sat silently beside William at that fateful dinner was the future queen. The scandal, in hindsight, was just a chapter, one that added layers to their story. It reminded everyone that even royal love isn't perfect, but it can endure. William's proposal, on a trip to Kenya, was private, heartfelt, and free from palace interference. "We'd been talking about marriage for a while," he later shared. "It just felt right." What this reveals about royal love. Royal relationships aren't like anyone else's. Every glance, every gesture, every guest at a dinner party is open to public interpretation. But the story of William and Kate offers something deeper than surface glamour. It shows that love under pressure can still thrive. From a secretive student romance to public scrutiny and royal responsibilities, their journey has been anything but easy. Yet, they managed to build something real, grounded in shared history and mutual respect. Kate's early moves, choosing St. Andrews, switching majors, enduring awkward dinners, weren't just strategic. They were part of her commitment. And William, with his own scars from a complicated childhood, found peace in that commitment. It all began with a game, a single line at a dinner party. And from that spark, a love story grew, one that defied expectations and continues to shape the future of the monarchy. So now, the question lingers. Was Kate's path to royalty written in the stars, or drafted behind the dorm room doors of St. Andrews? As her ex pulls back the velvet curtain, we're left to wonder, how much of this fairy tale was truly spontaneous? The truth may never fully surface, but one thing is certain. Kate Middleton is no accidental princess. Love her or question her, she's played the long game, and she's winning. Stay tuned, because in the royal world, silence is rare, but when it breaks, it changes everything.